For today's Christmas episode of Back to the City, I'm very excited to be joined by Siri Undlin, aka HUMBIRD. Let's begin every episode as we do at the Minnehaha Recording Company. This is the first of 3 songs performed by HUMBIRD in today's episode, and it is called August.
What would you do if I turned out the light, gave the shadows to the room? We're all creatures here, and I'm curious how the shapes change when I quit clinging to edges. I fall into you. August, ease on into darkness. Where will you go when you leave this tiny town where the fruit litters the ground? I have crossed a mountain pass beside you now, thrown my arms into an autumn wind that howls. I do not turn away from this easily. August, will you remember me? Could I stay when summer slips away too fast and prices rise on the Wild West? The northern pines persist to call my name, but I will not return unto the north the same. I swear on the dirt for the rest of my days, I will not forget the valley to which the darkness came.
Welcome back to the duplex. That was August.
Yeah.
And August is right in the middle of an EP that was released in June 2017. The first of 2 EPs, which are wonderfully titled Elsewhere and then Where Else. At what stage in the process did that symmetry of the titles come about?
It sort of happened on accident, actually. But
happy accident.
yeah, it was a happy accident. I knew I was going to release a group of songs called Elsewhere because
Yes.
I was living as a composer in residence and writing music at a place called Elsewhere. So it seemed right to pay homage to that place.
Where is Elsewhere?
It's in this really tiny town on the western slope of the Rockies in Colorado.
Where else? Where else would it be?
Yeah.
And so what brought you to Elsewhere?
Sort of another happy accident. A friend emailed me and said, hey, this studio is looking for composers. I think you'd be a good fit. You should apply.
Yeah.
So I did.
How long were you in Payoneer?
3 months.
3 months, okay. Of course, the final song is called Postcards from Payoneer. It begins a cappella. The narrative is important and we'll follow the narrative. But I think that the way in which this recurring vocal line sounds just seems really important. And of course, with it beginning a cappella, there's attention drawn to the vocal melody.
Yeah. I don't have a memory of writing that melody. I've been writing a cappella sort of blessing style songs for the last like 4 or 5 years. I did spend time in Ireland, and I just could never get out of my head how, you know, old men would stand up in pubs and the whole place would go quiet and everyone would really listen, and just that delivery of storytelling through and allowing a melody to enhance a story and create tension and that sort of thing. I was so moved by that tradition and really tried to internalize it. So.
Can you talk a bit more about your experience of that and the existential significance of the combination of melody and narrative and social context you're imagining or reflecting on an individual performing something like this, but in a pub setting?
For the first time in my life when I was in Ireland, I really started to understand the pub as a public house, which just wasn't really part of my understanding as an American. But being over there and seeing how it was like where the ladies who quilt meet up, and that's where people play cards and board games, that's where the music happens, that's where the town, all these different clubs were meeting. It just felt like, oh, this is a meeting place, this is a house for the public. And that really blew my mind. And the way that people sing these stories and connect each other to the past, like hundreds if not thousands of years, I thought was just this really profound, explicit example of like the house of the public.
That's a very good response. You're making me feel nostalgic for the UK too, which doesn't happen all that often.
Oh, okay.
But now it's most certainly, I want to go to the pub.
Totally.
So there's that particular song form or context of performing that was an inspiration. How about yoiks? How about yoiks? What is a yoik?
It's a really sacred and amazing tradition that's specific to the Sami tribe of Northern Europe, and I'm not an expert, so I really have like no place to talk about it publicly, but I was lucky enough to witness it and learn from it, and my impression is that it's a style of naming the environment you're in or the people you're around, and comes from a place of deep respect and acknowledging.
And this happens through the medium of music?
It's hard to explain, and I was there for a while trying to figure it out and sort of had to come to the understanding that I would never totally get it because it's not my culture and it's not my tradition, but it's like I love you, I hate you, I yoik you. It's like a verb to like evoke someone's spirit or like true essence through the melody that
So to yoik someone isn't to like perform a song to them, it's something more than that.
Not as I understand it. It's more of a yoik is a melody that's inherent to a person, place, or being, and to yoik it is to like honor it or call to it in a sense. I was drawn to the tradition and I wanted to go learn from it and experience it because it was just a type of melody and a type of singing that once I heard it, I just couldn't get it out of my head. I saw a YouTube video and I was like, what is that? So essentially that YouTube video was the beginning of like a 2-year adventure to get to the Arctic Circle and hear it for myself and try to learn from it. To be honest, I left with more questions than I did answers. It's a strange thing to have happen when you embark on a research grant. To come home and be like, I actually have no answers, I just have more questions, but that is what happened.
Did you write it up in a paper?
I didn't write it in any sort of like official academic paper. The Watson is a really unique fellowship, and you actually come back and you just perform or speak on what you did for 10 minutes.
So condensed from 10 minutes to 1, what, or however long you wanted to take. What did you say?
I basically said that anything that I learned I couldn't say, I would have to sing, and then I performed some of the melodies that I learned. Part of why I came home with more questions than I did answers was because partway through that research I really started to question what my role was as a researcher, because so often folklorists or researchers come in with this intention to take instead of honoring the people that have been carrying the traditions for thousands of years. So I I learned a lot, and those melodies, I think, are a huge part of the music that I make myself now.
Are there any songs on either one of the current EPs where you think the melodic dimension bears like a stronger...
One of the larger takeaways for me from studying yoiks actually was that there wasn't this emphasis on pure tone and like perfect pitch and organization, if that makes sense. And I grew up singing in choirs, so that was always something that I cared a lot about. And before this, the time I spent there, I always wanted to sing beautifully, and I wanted people to think that it was beautiful. But spending time up there really changed my ideas about what made a powerful song, and that beauty could absolutely be part of it, but also a sort of grit or intensity could also carry a certain type of message. There are certain songs, like the first track on Elsewhere, which is called I Fare My Body, which is like a little bit stranger, and it's got those really weird dissonant mumbling noises.
Yes.
A song like that I don't think would have been possible for me to write without being pushed to the very edge of what a song could be.
There's a lyric about fresh perceptions in that. At the very beginning, there's whistling and rattling. What's the thought behind like beginning the record with this whistling and rattling, and then later on having the human voice featured in ways that we don't normally expect the human voice to be featured on a song?
There was a lot of songs that could have been put on the EP, but when it came to deciding on certain things, I wanted to continue to push the envelope for myself and for anyone who was listening to it. And it comes easy to me to write pretty folk songs. Like, that is something that I can do, and I don't think too hard about it. But I think it's important to hold myself accountable to contribute something a little bit more meaningful than just another pretty folk song.
We began the episode with August, and we'll talk about that for a moment, and then people can safely expect 2 more pretty folk songs to be performed at the recording company. In the meantime, you know, we can hear the end of I Fare My Body. What does it mean to fare one's body?
To fare your body, I think of, it makes me think of sailing, it makes me think of weather, it makes me think of being within something.
So I think it's significant that, you know, the 4th word is body. Yeah. Some of the sounds that the human voices are making, you know, you can hear the lips moving, for example. The physical,
stuff,
exactly, yeah. How does that all relate to the idea of fresh perceptions and being on the edge, you know, to quote 2 more lyrics from the song?
In my opinion, it's really easy to just want to throw things at any creative pursuit in an attempt to make it better, and I think that we're surrounded by that in all areas of our life. And when I wrote these songs and was focusing on these EPs, I was really interested in the idea of stripping away and keeping things to the body, or a single body, and like what edges can I explore on my skin, on the sounds that I can make. How uncomfortable is my audience right now? Or are they digging this? And I liked playing with that space as well. And I do think it is an attempt to harken back to the idea of the human, of the Homo sapien, and the idea of being a mammal on planet Earth and all that stuff.
So the second song on the record is called Carnivore.
That song in particular is more of an extended metaphor and how a person can sort of eat themselves and the person they love alive.
To what extent are songs like Carnivore and Animal reminding us of what we are?
And where we come from.
And would you say that's one of the main objectives of the music?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really passionate about human evolution and archaeology and bones and stuff, and that's kind of, it feels like a different life from my pursuit of music, but it always seeps into it, and I think that those things become more tightly woven together when I take a step back. And
bringing us back to the human.
Yeah, the primordial kind of elemental type of existence. Like what matters when everything else is gone? I mean, you like have your breath and there's like dirt and yeah, I don't know. I'm really fascinated by those simple, sort of unnerving but ancient images.
What are some of the things that generally get in the way of us being in touch with that, and how does the music seek to move those things out of our way?
Yeah, I mean, there's infinite ways, infinite things that get in the way of that, and I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. You know, I don't mind electricity or antibiotics or anything like that, but it's absolutely why I'm so drawn to music as a craft, because I feel that it connects us to this like sort of blanket of time that we're part of, and it has the potential to just strip away all the crap. And when you're listening to a song that moves you, you are basically just an ape in a cave being moved by something, but you're also this really profound being that's existing underneath the stars. I think that music is the only thing that can really do both at the same time.
There's lots of really interesting light imagery in August, which one would expect because of the focus on a certain time of year and things are changing. At the beginning of the song, what would you do if I turned out the lights? Okay, so there it's interesting, it's you kind of counterintuitively in a song called August, the human is determining what happens with the light. Then in the chorus, ease on into darkness. So then it's interesting again, actually, you're inviting August to make its transition, to do its, to be August, to do its thing. And then by the end, I swear on the dirt, which I think is very significant, not just the phrase, like the presence of the dirt like, is crucial. For the rest of my days, I will not forget the valley to which the darkness came. So there's three very different ways in which light imagery is showing up in the song. Could you reflect on any one of those three or the relations between those three?
That song is fairly autobiographical. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but each verse sort of explores the different ways that a person can be empowered or disempowered by the presence of lightness or darkness. And I had a lot of fun writing those lyrics and kind of switching the expectations of like when you turn a light off in a bedroom, you think of it as turning the light off, but what if I switched the imagery around? It's like I gave the shadows out to the room kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So it was just fun to switch it around.
I love that. That's one of my favorite lyrics. Specifically the idea of giving the shadows to the room. We're all creatures here, and I'm curious how the shapes change when I quit clinging to edges. It's interesting, the idea of the edge and the idea of going beyond or doing something. Yeah,
well, and the edge is only really visible with the presence of light. So if you turn off the lights, it all becomes this soft sort of abyss, and you don't even see an edge anymore. So that was where that lyric came from.
Okay, and there's something important about being in this place.
I think so.
Yeah. There's references, I think, to autumn, too. The autumn wind that howls. You'll be howling by the end of the record. It's a lyric about you howling. So why the August winds? Why autumn?
Well, I wrote it in August. August is one of my favorite months, so it was an ode to that month. There's the harvest, it's abundant, it's warm. People tend to be like fairly relaxed, I think, in August, or like forced to move slower because it's so hot. But then occasionally there'll be these gusts of wind where you're like, ooh, it's coming.
So it's
fall is coming. It's an edge in and of itself, I think.
Okay.
That month. Yeah.
What happens when the wind howls within the song is you throw your arms out and you do not turn away from this easily. Is the song therefore kind of dramatizing, one person, Siri's kind of endeavor to, or excitement at kind of being at one with that season or that wind? Like, I see you, wind, and I'm going to honor the change that's happening. Is that kind of what's going on?
I think so. I mean, I'm really fascinated by time, which anyone who knows me well will laugh at because I'm just like perpetually late and lost.
You weren't late here.
Yeah, I was a little.
Tiny bit.
One of my best friends who knows my songwriting really well is always like, it's so funny how often you reflect on space and time because you are like the most oblivious, lacking in a sense of direction person I know, which is really true. And I think, I don't know if it's related. Like, I'm so bad at time and direction in real life, and that's why I'm focusing so much on it creatively.
In your songs,
but
yeah.
For a person that's like perpetually lost and somewhat confused, I do feel grounded in a sense of season, and I know my songs really reflect that. And August is one of them, but there's a lot more where that came from.
I went to walking along a cool stream, and the world so real became a dream.
This first conversation, pre-second song, at the recording company is all about the first EP, which closes, of course, with Postcards from Payoneer. We began by talking about the significance of the vocal melody, and then that led us to Ireland and all to many places. Yeah. Now we can hear that song. There are a number of verses, each one ending with an address to a different family member, with the idea of postcards being sent. Your parents get the a cappella deliveries, and then this moment in the song, further instrumentation arrives.
Yeah. I met a man with his hands in the dirt.
How does this song honor that time? How are you playing with time within it, with the idea of never leaving and then the idea of 3 months passing by the end? Is there a significance to the instrumentation kind of coming in the way that it does after that particular address to your father?
I think it was more of sort of a sonic arc. The third verse, where there is instrumentation, it sort of brings in new characters. There's a punk farmer, my sister is there, and then also there's the presence of a canyon, and it just gets kind of bigger and bigger, and I think it felt just right for some sparse instrumentation to come in and just like make it a horizon feeling
Yeah,
song.
it's not just you at the table writing your postcards anymore.
Exactly, it gets bigger.
And again, it's very visceral. There's references to the carrots and the cabbage, and you know that your sister will taste their worth. That's interesting how value comes up.
Payoneer it's like almost all organic farms. So there's just like tons of fruit, tons of vegetables. When it came to worthiness and value and also richness, it really was about what came up out of the ground that people like sweated and toiled for.